Question number 1 is from Ted Dennis.
Hello.
Ted.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Ted Dennis, and I'm the chairperson of Voices for Change and a member of LIP, to End Poverty. And both organizations engage in political advocacy on behalf of people who are homeless, have experienced homelessness, or are living in poverty. This year, we're going to be working to pass legislation requiring the expungement of unlawful detainers after 18 months. And in the course of my advocacy, I am regularly reminded of elements of the reNEW Minnesota vision. The overrepresentation of racial and ethnic minorities among those in need of social service assistance highlights how important it is that we embrace a politics of inclusion and justice for all and create a fair and equitable economy that benefits everyone. On September 26th, I'm proud to say I was a table discussion leader at the event launching the reNEW Minnesota campaign. All of the candidates there voiced support. I recall that you spoke of the lessons that you've learned at your father's camp. And so my question to you is, since that day of that event, when you voiced your agreement, what have you done to enact the vision, and how have you incorporated the vision into your campaign?
Well, thank you. And I did, and those of you that maybe weren't at the event on September 26th, let me say it again. I had a pretty unique childhood. In 1959, when I was 4 years old, a group of churches in northern Minnesota got together and bought a private voice camp. And my dad became the camp director there. So growing up for me, many people have fond memories of a week at summer camp while they're growing up. I lived there. I spent my entire childhood growing up in a church camp. And my dad was still there as camp director after I had completed college and got married. And it taught me a lot about tolerance, about compassion. It was just a wonderful place to grow up. I still have friends all over the state as a result of those experiences growing up there. And I'm learning a lot about the state traveling around and trying to have an honest conversation with Minnesotans about the challenges that we all face, because there are big challenges on the horizon for Minnesota. And last week I learned about 5 inches of snow and shut the highways down in our southern counties. Ended up spending a day in Grand Lake. But I don't know specifically, candidates are trying to distinguish themselves. It's a big field of people. There's right now, I think the challenge for us is getting as many people in the public we can aware of the challenges that Minnesota faces. Because I believe that in Minnesota, people will accept a tax increase. But they need to understand that the money is going to be well spent. So first they need to understand that there actually is a problem. And then second, that the money is going to be put to good use. So that has been my primary challenge traveling around the state, is as the person who chairs the Senate Tax Committee, to get the public to understand, and I've spent a lot of time with newspapers trying to communicate to them, yesterday in New Ulm and in Mankato, what the state is facing. Because I think Minnesotans will rise to the occasion and we'll solve these budget problems and do the things that are important if people understand the challenge.
And the follow-up question I would have to Ted's is exactly what part of the vision, or how have you incorporated the reNEW Minnesota vision of our future together into your campaign since September 26th?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember the components well enough. You can only imagine what us candidates go through from day to day. But my administration will be one of inclusiveness, of all of us pitching in together as one community. And that's the environment I grew up in. I think that's the atmosphere that I built at the Capitol, as somebody who works hard, wants to solve problems. And Minnesota's got plenty of problems right now. And the Bakk administration would be one of inclusiveness, one of asking everybody in the state to think as a community and let's move our state forward with all of us helping.
Question number 2.
Good evening, Senator Bakk. My name is Talmay Shaw, and as a mother, a domestic violence advocate, and a home organizing leader with Bakk, Minnesota, I'm extremely concerned about the financial situation in Minnesota and the lack of courage on the part of our current governor to raise taxes. With funding cuts in education, public safety, and healthcare, our communities are left vulnerable and unequipped to meet their basic needs. In particular, I'm worried about the state of our educational system. My daughter is currently 8 months old, and in 4 years from now, she's going to be entering first grade. The decisions that the next governor makes will affect the quality of our education. I want her to go to a school that is well-funded and where she and all her classmates can thrive. We need a leader who's willing to increase taxes and invest in the well-being of our families. So I want to ask you, Senator Bakk, will you be willing to invest in my family, in all our families, and increase taxes to do so? And just as importantly, will you use your campaign as a platform to build a political support for raising taxes during your administration?
Well, I think I've been trying pretty hard to do that. I would argue that I have been the candidate that's trying to have an honest conversation with Minnesotans. You know, I don't just talk about tax increases. I'm the chair of the Senate Tax Committee. All you have to do is look at last year's Senate tax bill that passed the Senate. And what it did is it undid the income tax cuts that were made in 1999. It undid the income tax cuts that were made in 2000. And it put a fourth tier on the income tax. All the candidates talk about taxing the rich. Okay, Tom Bakk did it. Okay, at $250,000 in income, I put a significant tax increase on households with that kind of revenue. Now, those 3 tax increases together, undoing the 1999 income tax cuts, undoing the 2000 income tax cuts, and putting a fourth tier on the income tax. You know what the Star Tribune said when I rolled that bill out? In an editorial, they called me Bakk the Bold. That it was courageous. Okay? And you know what a lot of other people said? It's political suicide. But you know what? It's the kind of leader this state's going to need. Somebody that's willing to stand up and say, you know what, when times were really good, we cut taxes. Jesse Ventura was the governor. We cut the income tax in '99. We cut it in 2000. And in 2001, we took the property taxes on your home. We took the school portion off. It cost $900 million a year to do that in 2001. Those 3 things together are what has the state in the financial trouble we're in today. When the economy was humming along, we cut taxes 3 years in a row, significant tax cuts. And now when the economy has slowed down, there's not enough revenue to do things that we all know are important that we want to do. Now, the downside of what I just told you is it's asking everybody to share in the solution. That is what needs to happen. Anybody that tells you that this problem can be fixed by just taxing the rich, okay, or by reforming government, or just spending cuts, is not being honest with you about the challenges that Minnesota has.